Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Sports Insight with your host, Alamdar Khan. And as you all know, we basically provide you all sorts of sports information from all across the globe. You guys can definitely reach us on our social media handles, which is at the rate of Indus News Sports. But anyways, we'll go on to the headlines. Yes, from the world of NBA, Brooklyn Nets actually managed to make their first mark in scoring and winning from the Magics. Yes, the Pro Tees cleared COVID-19 test and they are undergoing their first practice session in Pakistan. Yes, from the world of Premier League, Liverpool versus Manchester United ended up in a draw. And yes, from the world of Formula One, Alpine F1 signs ex-MotoGP boss David Brivio as their new racing director. And yes, those were the headlines, everybody. And yes, the focus on the show today would be NBA. Yes, we're talking about an interesting match that actually took place, which was Brooklyn Nets versus Orlando Magic. But what really happened was that, Kevin Durant, obviously running the show, in putting James Harden on board. That was one thing that, that had been on board for a long time. We all know Kevin Durant has that leadership quality of getting the right players that he actually wants. So what he basically did was, obviously they have Kyrie Irving as well. So they have like a solid team now. They have all the right people on board. But, only a visionary leader would actually come up with this. If you look at LeBron James, I think obviously he's like one of the finest out there. But then comes the same thought process by Kevin Durant. But anyways, to discuss more on the world of NBA, I have Nadir Malik with me all the way from LA. Hello, Nadir. How are you?
Hey, Alamdar. How you doing?
I am well myself. Thank you for joining us, Nadir. So, Nadir, would you please just give us an overview with regards to how this entire thought process came on Kevin Durant's mindset of pulling in James Harden and, then making the team even more stronger, solid, with the vision that, any leader would want?
Sure. So, as you mentioned, the Orlando Magic game against the Nets was the debut for James Harden.
Yeah.
And him together with KD, Kevin Durant, they were able to put up 70 plus points. James Harden actually had a 30-point triple-double, which means he had double digits in assists and double digits in rebounds, as well as double digits in scoring.
Right.
So it was an amazing debut.
Right.
As far as the process is concerned to get James Harden to Brooklyn,
right.
It was during the offseason when James Harden actually requested a trade.
Right.
As of last season, they just they didn't have the personnel in Houston, and after the previous week where they lost 2 games in back-to-back days to the defending champions, the Los Angeles Lakers,
right.
They really kind of just knocked them out. And post that game is when James Harden publicly demanded, that we don't have the personnel. I don't have the capability any longer to take this team to the next level.
Right.
The furthest they had ever gotten in the past, the Rockets, had been when they took the Steph Curry, Klay Thompson Warriors
right.
To 7 games in the Western Conference Finals. Right. So bringing it back to Brooklyn and Kevin Durant and James Harden, those two have had a connection ever since James Harden was a rookie in Oklahoma City.
Right.
Oklahoma City is where they both played together. James Harden was actually won the 6th Man of the Year award coming off the bench. Right. So usually you have your 5 starters and you have a 6th man that's first person that comes off the bench, basically, which is your player that is as good as anybody that's on the starters, just that there isn't enough space for him.
Right.
So with that being said, that was where their connection really kind of starts, right?
Right.
Now that the whole landscape has changed in basketball, right? With Los Angeles winning. Last year, James Harden has had his ex-Oklahoma City teammate, which was Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. So last year, James Harden had Russell Westbrook on his team. Right. They were knocked out in the Western Conference semifinals by the eventual champions, the Los Angeles Lakers.
Lakers, yeah.
And then they traded Russell Westbrook over the summer.
Right.
He actually, he raised his hands up. He's like, you know what, I can't make it happen here, and he demanded a trade. They traded him. So now Harden goes to Brooklyn.
Sorry to interrupt you, but there was something of the sort that I heard, and would you like to say more about that? James Harden wasn't really happy with the Rockets as well. Is that really true?
This is correct. So he was unhappy for the fact that they kept losing. And he is slated to make $44 million this year for one season. Right. So it's not a factor of money or anything of that nature. He's already won an MVP award of the league.
Yeah.
He's won 3 scoring championships. So it's not about the personal accolades for him either.
Would he go back or would he not go back? I mean, like, if he were that key person, obviously they were losing. But do you look at it this way that, maybe at some point in time, if they ask him to come back, would he consider that? Because I personally think that, with the vision that Kevin Durant had of pulling him out, so how do you see that? Would it ever happen?
It wouldn't. At this point, it's pretty much an impossibility. I wouldn't say impossible, but highly improbable.
Pretty, right. So basically, it's basically the combo of the 3 right now, right? It's James Harden, Kevin Irving. But it's very interesting with how you see that vision work out. So how do you see, as a leader's perspective, with Kevin Durant and the vision that he currently has for Brooklyn Nets?
So with, as you mentioned, it's Kevin Durant, James Harden, and also you mentioned the third person of the 3-headed monster that they have now is Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is their point guard, and he's also a champion when he was teammates with LeBron James with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016.
Right.
So it's a 3-headed monster, right? They have 3 of the top 10 players in the league. Right. So Kyrie Irving plays a point guard, which is the person that's most responsible for handling the ball.
Right.
James Harden is a shooting guard, which is basically called a 2 guard. His job is usually, on most teams, a shooting guard, his job, like it says, to shoot, score points, and defend the other team's guard.
Right.
And Kevin Durant is a stretch. He's a small forward/forward. I mean, the guy is 7 foot tall, but weighs like 150 pounds wet. Right. So he's not a power forward or anything like that, but he usually plays the 4 or 3 or 4, depending on what their lineups are like. So just the fact that they have 3 of the top 10 players in the league, I mean, that in and of itself guarantees them, a high ranking or high standing going into the postseason, right? The playoffs.
True.
So now what they have to do. So the only issue that they have is 2 things, right? Well, number one thing is, they have these 3 guys that are all world amazing, can score the basketball like nobody's business, but they have no defense, right? So Kyrie Irving plays defense sparingly. James Harden basically just doesn't play defense, and Kevin Durant would probably be their best defender. So in that trade, they had to let go 4 players from their roster. So the advantage that the Nets had was they had the team that was high in depth, right? So they had multiple people that were on the bench. They no longer have that.
Right.
They had to get rid of all these players to trade for James Harden, right? So, I mean, the trade itself was gargantuan. I mean, it was 4 teams trade. There was, the Nets got James Harden from the Houston Rockets. The Rockets got Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, and a player named Crooks. They got 3 first-round picks. They got, it was a gigantic haul, right? There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 8 players involved total. 9 players involved, plus picks. So just the magnitude of the trade itself was huge. And then at the end of the day, it's like comparing it to the sense of let's compare it to cricket. It's like the Indian team trading Kohli to South Africa, right? It's akin to that. It's that level of player.
It's huge.
Right? It's massive.
So one thing, let's talk about Hornets versus the Hawks as well. a bit about that, where the Hornets managed to obviously win over Hawks. How do you see that? How did you find the entire performance of, the teamwork, the effort that they have actually managed to put in to fetch that victory?
So, so both the Hawks and the Hornets are two of the younger teams in the league.
Right.
And the reason why this game is of note is because LaMelo Ball, who's a rookie this year, which just drafted this past offseason, was the youngest ever in the history of the game to score a triple-double. Again, like I mentioned, triple-double means you score double digits in points, double digits in assists, and double digits in rebounds.
Nice.
So he had 22 points, 12 assists, and 11 rebounds in that triple-double. So that's, in the history of the game that has had players like Kevin Durant, like LeBron James, Michael Jordan, all these greats.
Right.
LaMelo himself is the youngest player ever to do it in the history of the game. So it's it's a historical game.
So,
the game itself, 113 to 105.
So this means that he is definitely on the right path to become one of the next leaders, if I'm not wrong.
He's ranked first among rookies in points, rebounds, and assists. So he's far and away the best rookie in the class right now, and he's going to win the Rookie of the Year.
Right.
More than likely.
Right. So you overall think that his performance, and maybe once he gets to that upper level, because you said that Hornets and these teams are like they're like ups and downs with regards to how they are. You just mentioned, but what I'm trying to say is that all right. So if you focus more on their performance or being on one person, like you said that it's not technically easy for one person to completely run their show. He would be the best rookie, but obviously at the end comes the entire teamwork, because that's how basketball rolls, if I'm not wrong here.
Absolutely. So it's a team game, right? Somebody like LeBron James, for example, always tries to make his teammates better, right? You cannot succeed one man alone, right? So that's it's one of those sports where you absolutely need everybody on your team to contribute. In order for them to do that, you have to help them get better. And Ball himself, he's a distributor. So when you're passing the ball, it develops its own synergy, like its own energy among the players, right? So if everybody gets a feel for the ball, they're more engaged, they're more likely to play defense, which basically involves the whole team.
So
makes everybody better.
as we talk about the entire, let's talk about Rockets against the Lakers and obviously them losing, and obviously as you said earlier that that's probably one of the reasons why James Harden left. How do you see the game, and how do you see Rockets even go down further?
So, they, like I mentioned, they traded away Russell Westbrook, which was, their second superstar, because that pairing with James Harden didn't really work. So they brought in Boogie Cousins, who's a center, and John Wall from Washington. So they traded Russell Westbrook for John Wall. Basically, the reason why they traded it one up was because you have to make the money work. And both of those guys are getting paid $35+ million this year. So they just did a one-for-one trade, basically. Right.
So what we'll do is we'll continue this conversation once we come back from a very, very quick break. Now, stay with us, and you all stay with us too, and we'll see you guys after the break. And welcome back, yes, to the Sports Inside with your host, Alamdar Khan. And yes, we still have Nadir Malik with us, all the way from LA. Nadir, welcome once again. And as we were talking about the Rockets and LA Lakers. So, yes, the defeat, and where are the Rockets heading right now?
So, as I was mentioning, right, the players have changed places now. But what I like to say is that basically the Lakers beat James Harden out of Houston. They've got a few new members that they're trying to bring in. There's been a lot of issues with, COVID protocols and people missing games. Right. But the game itself, again, it was the Rockets were so thoroughly beaten, right? It was so comprehensive, and it was 2 games back to back within a space of 3 days that it completely demoralized them, and basically obliterated any chance that the Houston Rockets had of saving James Harden and keeping him on the team. So that game was more impactful on his departure than really a lot of the stuff that's been going on. Right.
So eventually the entire situation will go down to that side of obviously falling and trickling down. For Rockets, from how I see it, because losing James Harden and obviously losing on a constant scale, but obviously they were playing against LA Lakers, so we still have that benefit of doubt for them. They still struggled as much as they could. Okay, let's go to the MVP side. So what is the current status? What is the current scenario? How do you see it flowing for now for all the players that are putting in their best?
So currently, there's one person head and shoulders above everybody else, and that's the leader of the Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James.
Right.
Currently, his team is sitting right on top. They're 11-3. They have the best record in the league.
Right.
He personally is averaging 24 points, 8.5 rebounds, and almost 8 assists per game.
Right.
To be quite honest, that's par for the course for him. He's been doing this for 18 years, and the craziest part is this is his 18th season,
Wow.
and he's still putting up numbers like these.
Wow.
So he's obviously the top of the charts right now.
Right.
The people that are second and third in my estimation are there's the player Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks.
Right.
He's someone who's modeled his game after LeBron, right? So he's more of a distributor and a scorer and a little bit of everything.
Right.
So his team is not doing too well, but him individually, he's putting up almost 28 points a game, 9 boards, nine rebounds per game, and 8 assists a game. I mean, those are insane numbers. And this is only his third season in the NBA, and he
Right.
actually played. He started playing professionally when he was 14 in Spain.
Wow.
So it's a crazy story.
He's 20 years old right now, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, he's young. He's very young.
Wow, that's super impressive. Yeah. So you also suggest that he's at the right direction with regards to the MVP perspective.
Honestly, I think he might. If he continues on the same trajectory, I think he might take it really, because there's such a thing as voter fatigue. LeBron's been great so many years. He's won so many years.
Right.
Giannis Antetokounmpo from Milwaukee has won the last 2 years. And he hasn't been able to win the championship. So the voters get tired, and the voters are media people. They're journalists and things of that nature. So they want to find the next shiny object, right? And that's Luka in this case.
And I think that would probably
he's a
carve
great
his
player.
performance. Yeah, that's like if he's 20 right now and he's at that level, so the carving has already started. I think maybe it would definitely boost his morale more to do more, because this is like more of the recognition
Absolutely.
that would definitely goes into their own. But anyways, what about the third MVP that you think would be?
In my estimation, I think Joel Embiid from the Philadelphia 76ers has been putting up phenomenal numbers. He just last week, as one of the games I was going to talk about, was they played against the defending Eastern Conference champions, the Miami Heat.
Right.
And he put up 45 points in that game. 45 points, 16 rebounds, and 4 assists in an overtime game. So he's been balling, no doubt about that. Again, 24.5 points a game, 12 rebounds, 3 assists per game, and over a steal per game. So he's basically carrying his team by himself. They were actually in the running to get James Harden.
Right.
And they weren't able to win out in those sweepstakes because Brooklyn was able to offer such a treasure chest of assets. So that they just it was like an arms race. Now, these guys are, unfortunately, they missed out, but they're doing all right. They're ranked I think they're ranked 4th in the East, which is not the greatest, but it's good enough for now.
Right. So let's do a complete team stat as the power ranking perspective, so that the viewers have an idea that where exactly are the standings in the current. Obviously, everybody knows with regards to LA Lakers and LeBron James, obviously. But how is it going, and what would the direction be with regards to the power ranking for all?
Sure. So obviously, like I mentioned, the team with the best record in the league right now is number 1 in the power rankings, which is the LA Lakers.
Right.
They have been far and away the best team in the league so far,
right,
because they have a sense of consistency. But
right,
they've also included, they traded for new pieces as well.
Right.
So they're incorporating the new pieces in, and as well as they are their current players are doing well. And the best part in all of it is their superstars, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, the
right,
2 main players, are playing the least amount of minutes that they've played in their careers respectively, which
right,
means when they go on later into the postseason, they'll have fresher legs and be able to do more. And the thing is, it's a 72 game season this year because of the COVID situation and all
right,
that. Usually it's an 82 game season.
right.
So fresher legs will be very important come the postseason. So those guys are obviously number 1, like I mentioned. Number 2, is going to be the Brooklyn Nets. And the reason why that is as we talked about in the beginning of our conversation,
Yeah,
James Harden. I mean, the guy
absolutely.
is a monster. Right?
Absolutely.
So there's it's basically like you've got an army and you've just handed them a nuclear weapon, right?
Right.
So at this point they can just run over teams.
Right. So
They don't even we
when are
talked
we
about defense.
when are we looking at Brooklyn Nets facing the Lakers? That's an interesting question to put it that way.
They should be playing. I think in February is a next scheduled game, if I'm not
We
mistaken.
will definitely
But
keep that track
yeah.
running so that the next time we come, we definitely talk about that. Anyways, the third team that you think is there.
Yeah, only thing is don't look too forward to it because there's a lot of COVID related cancellations happening. So
Right.
if you look forward to it too much, it might not happen at all, right?
Right.
The third team that I mentioned, as I mentioned, Joel Embiid's team, the Philadelphia 76ers. They've been doing really well. They're actually the second ranked defense in the association. So they're defensively very good. They've actually been able to play through Joel Embiid a little bit more. So it's where they're basically trying to give him the ball more, so he
Right.
can kind of do more with the ball rather than play around him with different kinds of shooters and stuff. So they've also added a bunch of shooters in their team: Danny Green, Seth Curry. So they're starting to come together, and they're looking good. They've won some good games.
All right. So basically, you see Lakers. All right. But the next thing that we definitely talk about, and maybe the next time we discuss, I mean, like you said, the COVID situation, it's not only in Pakistan, it's in the US. We've seen it with cricket, we've seen it with golf, we've seen it like
Everywhere.
everywhere. Let's hope everything goes spot on for us so that we can manage to have that match that actually brings in the Lakers facing the Nets. Before you
Fingers
go,
crossed.
before you go, I'll just have the last verdict with regards to the trade that happened. And I just wanted to ask one more thing with regards to this James Harden perspective. I still remember he had a violation which I was going through a few months back, I guess, with regards to health hazard. If I'm not wrong, is that true?
Yeah, he was at a strip club.
Yeah, I heard so. I heard so. But anyways, and it was like, and yes, for players not following the protocols of health and all the situations, because for teams, for all the managers and the management, he's supposed to be the key, right? The key member, and obviously you can't leave or bring in an image to not only himself, so you have to follow all the protocols. But anyways, thank you very much, Nadim Malik, for being a part of the show with us and giving us ample knowledge with regards to NBA, and we'll surely be having more shows like these with you so that we can get more information with regards to the world of NBA. Thank you once again.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Alamdar.
Pleasure, pleasure. So yes, that was Nadim Malik all the way from LA, and we were discussing basically the entire perspective of NBA, the standing, the ranking, the MVPs. Not only that, I will now switch to what's happening in Pakistan. Yes, we're talking about cricket. South Africans are here. They've cleared the COVID-19 test, and they are undergoing the first practice season now. So that is one interesting thing that is happening for now. There are 21 cricketers and 11 staff members that actually went through the COVID testing. Not to forget, Pakistan already went to New Zealand and had their COVID, but isolation and everything, they had to go through that. But for them, at least what they did was they managed to give them the chance to come practice on our soil. So it's going to be an interesting approach to how things go by in the first test that's lined up 26th of January. We're looking forward for that. But not only that, this was from the world of cricket. We wish them the very best, and obviously we wish our Pakistan cricket team the best, because this time we're surely looking forward on performing the way we should. And yes, let's switch over to Premier League. Yes, the most interesting thing that recently happened here. We absolutely were looking forward for. Yes, Manchester United versus Liverpool. This was a match that everybody was waiting for, and literally both the goalkeepers proved themselves as the heroes of the entire game, because they eventually managed to end the match in a draw. It was a definitely tough match, but at the end of it all, in the entire situation, because the rivalry go a long way. Whenever it's about Liverpool versus Manchester United, it has always been like that. But anyways, the match ended in a draw. Good for both of the teams. And this was from the football side, and now I'll switch myself to Formula One. Yes, an interesting update with regards to Formula One. Alpine F1 signs ex-MotoGP boss David Brivio as their new racing director, which is also a new update. With regards to that, David will report to the newly appointed CEO, Laurent Rossi, at Alpine. Not only that, Brivio arrives of a wealth of experience, and we look forward for that wisdom to be a part of the Alpine F1. Anyways, guys, this was major updates with regards to sports from all across the globe. I think and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Keep us posted. Reach out to us on our social media handle whenever you can. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.